All right, we are recording here, sir. Were you just in your Zen mode over there?
I was doing a little prayer.
I look over and see your eyes closed and...
Got to get centered, man. Get focused.
Doing some meditation before we get this kicked off here?
Absolutely. This thing's kind of a big deal to me, so I like the idea of being able to kind of voice our experiences thus far. We're obviously both still very young in recovery, but I'm not going to lie, my experiences...
Even younger in the podcasting.
Even younger in the podcasting, but I'm saying, man, like, my experience in recovery thus far has been so profound. And I was in therapy this morning. I went down to Horizons for my one-on-one counseling, and I was talking about it with them. And he was like, well, what's different? Because that wasn't my first, just coming out of the Horizon Village was not my first time in rehab. That was my fourth rehab. I'm not sure how many detoxes. I think I've been through 5 or maybe 6 between here and the West Coast. And then a bunch of outpatient and different stuff in and out of different 12-step meetings and different kinds of recovery. But
so what is different?
Well, it was the big thing. The only thing I can really attach it to that I think was the aha moment, if you will, the big thing that just this is it. It was that thing I always talk about when I was first at detox this time around. And I've been doing this for a long time. I'd been using drugs for a long time. The first time I blacked out on alcohol, I was 12 years old. That was the very first time I drank. So this isn't it's not a new thing for me. And so trying to get clean and sober was also not a new thing for me. I've been kind of cracking at that for a while. First AA meeting, I think I was 17. It was for all the wrong reasons. I've told you about this. A girlfriend was going to break up with me. Her mom was in the program, and I was like, wait, don't go. What if I go and do these meeting things, right? So anyways, that obviously wasn't successful. Kind of sidetracked there. So the thing was, when I was standing in front of Detox down there in Buffalo, 291 Elm, and they got that glass door and the reflection and just that, seeing myself, and it just kind of all hit home, man. Everything just flashed before my eyes, all the horrible things I've done to people, all my selfish actions, all the degrading moments and drug abuse, and the times I'd be in these, when I was out west in Skid Row, just in these shitty alleys, ducking behind dumpsters, everything just flashed through my head, and I just felt this, kind of a relief, man, to because that was the first time I ever really admitted, I can't do this. I surrender. And they said if that's critical in order to recover, you have to surrender to this thing. And I would never do that.
Hopelessness.
The hopelessness, the helplessness. There's no way I can win this fucking fight, man. And I never wanted to admit that because I'm just a stubborn person. I'm stubborn, prideful, egotistical. Even when I look back at times when I'd little fights in grade school. There was this kid in 5th grade, Chad, and we fought a couple times, and he won every time. You know what I mean? But I would always have an excuse in my head why I lost. It was well, no, it's because he fucking did this, and if I do this next time, I'll win. I'll never just say to myself, yo, you got beat up, you lost the fight, it's okay. And that stubbornness carried through in all other aspects of my life, addiction included, and it just made it very difficult for me to ever say, I can't do this. For me to even say, I am a drug addict. I would always say, I'm not a drug addict, I'm a drug user. I'm just a heavy drinker, I'm a heavy partier, I just go a little harder than everybody else. Well, no, I was a drug addict. I wasn't a crackhead, I was a crack smoker. How there's any fucking difference, I don't know. But that's the way that I would justify shit to myself, man. So, the beginning of this journey, June 6, 2018, standing in front of Detox, man, that's everything just sunk in. And I just became wide open to all the help. There's so much help for people in addiction and in recovery, because we struggle in recovery too. We're still going to need help. I had a buddy who was 6 years clean and started going outpatient because he just needed some extra help. And, there's so much there, but unless we open ourselves up, nothing gets in. It's wearing a suit of armor, man. You got to, even if it's just a little bit, just peel up a little bit, make yourself a little bit open and vulnerable. And the help will start piling in.
Look at that. The old reflection story
Boom.
Of the mirror. Every time I drive by down there on Elm Street, I think of that story that you always share.
It was some powerful stuff, man. It really was. It was one of the most definitive moments of my life.
Picture you there with 2 plastic bags, which is all your belongings, everything you own, and 2 Tops plastic bags staring at yourself.
Yeah. It was heavy, man. It was
36 years old.
You really turn it from a sympathetic story to wow, you're a fucking loser. But that's really what it is, man. I mean, if we just if I just keep looking for sympathy, the old feel sorry for me thing, then yeah, no, it's not that. It is a loser move to be in that position. But I let it get that far. You know what I mean? I could have got help a long time ago, but I didn't want to admit that I was a loser. You know? And that's just my story.
What is it that brings us to the point of finally breaking, to being like, all right, I need to just get to this state of hopelessness? In the good book. In the good book, it talks about that. Yeah. We are in a hopeless state of mind.
I don't know where it's in there, but they either say thoroughly beaten or thoroughly licked. Like, it's an old book, right? So they may use some old verbiage, but I think it's thoroughly beaten. And everybody's different, man. You know, some people after their first, blackout or alcohol poisoning or getting fired from their job or like wife leaving them, whatever event it is that takes place that makes them be like, I have to change. And then they just get that ultimate level of willingness, because that's what's required, is that ultimate level of willingness. And for other people like myself who are just stubborn idiots, and I just watched my world burn down multiple times, and I just always like, I'll get it back. I'm crafty, but I'm not. I got lucky, and I happen to have some good people in my life that felt sorry for me. But eventually, you keep doing this shit, you're going to keep pushing people away, and then I'm just left to my own devices, and that is a fucking nightmare. When I'm in active addiction, left to myself, oh my God, it was the worst. It was the loneliest times of my life. So that's what I talk about. My experience so far has just been like, it's almost like a magic trick, dude. Like the way that I feel today, like I was telling you that I did my 5th, 6th, and 7th steps yesterday. And for anybody who doesn't know, your 5th step, like your 4th step, that's your inventory, your moral inventory. It also has a list of all your fears, and then your sexual inventory, the sexual wrongs that you've done and the way you've acted in relationships towards the opposite sex or same sex, whatever. I don't know why that got weird for me for a second there. Anyways, fucking no, we're just gonna keep it pushing.
Just re-record. We're starting over.
No, yeah, right. Anyways, sip my drink real quick. My energy drink.
Take a break there, champ.
Yeah, let me slow that down a little bit. So anyways, so now you got this list, right? And then you go and sit down with whoever it is that you feel comfortable with that knows this process, typically a sponsor. That's how I did it with my sponsor. We went out to his house, and you just kind of explain to it how it goes. And now there's all those things that you write down and whatnot. But being that we've lived the lives that we've lived, and I think this is typical of all addicts and alcoholics, there's some shit, I'm not writing it down. And he even told me to make a list of like the take to the grave shit. That list is blank, because I'm not putting that down out of fear that somebody may find it or see it, and I'm just never going to tell anybody that. So towards the end of my 5th step, when I had admitted all these things that I had done, and he's reading to me some stuff out of the big book about how the 6th step works. And they kind of ask you the question just before it gets going, though, like, were you honest and thorough? Like, if there's anything you left in there, like, it's going to fuck this process. And I'm just like, no, there's no way. These, I'm not saying these things. But then just before we got going, I'm saying prayers and stuff. And it was just that booming God voice in my head. I call it God. People can call it whatever it is that they want, but we need something bigger than us. That's just the way it is. And so that booming voice in my head saying, like, you have to say this stuff. And I'm just like, fuck. So I literally put my hand up, and I was like, wait. And he was like, what else? And I'm like, I couldn't speak. I had to like force the words out, because I'm just like, fucking nobody knows this. And I mean, I've told you so many debaucherous stories of shit that I've done, so you can only imagine how bad I think this stuff is anyways. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he could relate. One of the things, he was like, I've been there, man. And I know a lot of other guys who've done those same kind of things or whatever, crimes or whatever they were. Some horrendous shit. But because I did that thorough, and this literally was everything, man. Like, I laid it all out, all my shit. And, then that 6th step, you sit in the room for like an hour by yourself. Not like an hour, actually 1 hour. That's what it says in the book. And you just reflect on it. You reflect on everything that you've done, the person that you are, all the wrongs that you have, and then you pray for these defects to be removed. And dude, when I walked out of there, like, I set my alarm for 1 hour just so I did it properly, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to do everything like actually thorough. There's even a part in there where it says, once you've done this, walk over, pull your book off the shelf. So he actually made me go and put the book on the shelf so I can do it like dot for dot out of the book, like exactly how it is. So I did that, man. And, you know, I didn't know what to expect. I've asked a lot of people, excuse me. I've asked a lot of people what their fifth step was like, and it's a totally mixed bag. You know, it's a very individualized and personal experience. Some people like right away just feel this like spiritual abundance and they're like fucking floating in the room or whatever. Other people, it was a very slow progress, but every person said that it was a major benefit and like a keystone in walking this road to freedom, right? So it took me like till today to be able to describe it, and it's a gentle peace. And I mean, I'm obviously still a pretty hyper cat, but from going like as wound up and knotted up and angry and anxious as I always am, to like today, I'm just like good. You know what I mean? And I obviously have the rest of my days to prove that this thing works, you know, to myself and to others. But it's pretty amazing, man. It was a very amazing experience.
Yeah, we want to get into here in this episode about kind of humility, patience, and pride. But we talked before we hit record how we kind of feel that it stems from fear and what you were feeling at that moment of wanting to just take everything to the grave. I'm never going to tell anybody any of this. I'm not even going to write it down on a piece of paper. So, you know, to get rid of the chance of anybody even coming across and finding out these things about me. And that fear of just not wanting to say it. And all of a sudden you dip into this fear a little bit, you go through it, and today you're saying this is the best you've felt in a long time, if not forever.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing. Stepping into that realm of just the unknown, the things that we're scared of, like, I don't want anybody to know this about me because it'll make me, you know, look at different in this person's eyes or that person's eyes.
Well, and the thing is too that those are assumptions that I have, that people are going to look at me differently or whatever. And the thing is, like, before I said it, you know what I mean? I'm sitting there and like, this is a man that I trust, you know what I mean? Like, we have a very good relationship, and I knew he wouldn't judge me. So I'm like thinking to myself, right, well, what am I bugged out about then? And because I had just written that big inventory with all my character defects, like right away, I recognized like this is simply ego and pride, you know. And the point of doing these steps, now obviously, you know, like, I'm a big advocate of the 12-step programs. That's what's working for me. But whatever works for anybody else, I'm not trying to push this shit on anybody. I'm just saying that it's been very effective in my life. You know what I mean? So having that list and like knowing that it's all ego and pride, like the result of this step is to know this new freedom and to know this fearlessness, because now I'm living as God would have me live, you know, and to have ultimate faith in my higher power that everything's going to be okay. So that's going through my head, and I'm like, if I have ultimate faith and I'm like trying to ask for this ultimate help, how can I be afraid of these two things? That they don't coincide. It completely contradicts what I was trying to do. So like, to get that out was not easy, but I was fine after. I was A-okay. I wasn't injured physically or emotionally or anything. So that's just proof to me that this process is working very well for me in my life.
It is. There's something else to be said about the whole process of how we make things out to be bigger than what they actually are. And then when we finally get through this thing that we're trying to get through, and we make it out through all this fear and anxiety and, you know, just being scared in general, we get through that at the other end, and it's like, oh, that wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. You know, like riding your bike without training wheels when you were younger. Right. Like, you're scared shitless of it, and all of a sudden you're going, and now you got somebody have the wheels off, and then you got your parent, your mom or dad, holding onto the back of the seat, and you're going, and you know, you're riding and you think they're still holding on, but they're not. And then you realize they're holding on, and you get scared and you start freaking out. And then eventually you get through it and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. This was easy. Going off the high dive at the swimming pool, you know, whatever it may be, you start to find out, like, you have all these different, you know, these things in your head that are saying, no, this could happen. This could happen. Right. You know, that could happen. And then all of a sudden you do it. It's like, oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. Right. I'm trying to remember, the counselor at Horizons was running a group. It actually was my personal counselor, Robert. But we talked about, he had us read the story. And it was about this guy who wanted to start rock climbing.
Oh, so, yeah. That was
he
a
went
good story.
he went to the indoor rock climbing. Yeah. And he kept intentionally, he'd go a little ways up and he'd intentionally fail and fall. Mm-hmm. then he'd go up higher, then he'd intentionally fall again. Then he'd go up even higher, and he would intentionally fall again. And like all of a sudden, by the time he's getting up to the top, the fear of falling isn't even there anymore. It's like, oh, I've done this. So it kind of brings me to another point of, failing, being, just having this, not only the fear of rejection, but the fear of failure as well. That can come into play and everything, and just about how much failure can teach us things, and almost planning to fail so that you can learn quicker, in a sense. Like, he got over that fear quicker because it didn't take him 3 months to fall. He just intentionally fell and kind of went through it.
Right. Yeah, he just walked directly into the fear. Yeah. He basically took it out of fear's hands and says, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Yeah. But you're right, man. Like, the freedom that I experienced from walking directly into that fear is so profound that I can't really explain it. But it's an amazing feeling. And you're right. Like failure is the greatest teacher, and also kind of a huge comfort too, man. Like, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but some stand-up comedian, I was watching a thing and it was an interview with them, and he was talking about like the best part of his career was in the beginning, where he would go on stage and just eat shit every single time. You know what I mean? He was like, it was even worse when you didn't get booed and it was just quiet, and then after a while of going through that each time, by the time he was just like, whatever, dude, like, it's not actually killing me. I'm having fun up on this stage and nothing's really hurting me. He decided it's not going to hurt him. And once he had that mindset and he just went up there confident to have a good time, he just started killing it. And now dude's crazy famous and makes a living off it. So facing your fears, and it's like, I think a lot of those fears come from, we have an idea of something that we want to achieve, and the idea of falling short of that is what we're afraid of. Like the fear of walking up to a girl, like, oh, like, she's looking at me, I'm looking at her, like, and for some reason, like, even as grown-ups, dude, like, I thought that this fear would, like, shake by the time I was not a teenager anymore, but it's still there. You want to approach a woman, like, you still kind of get those knots in your stomach, heart starts pounding, and it's like, just the idea of her saying no is, like, just catastrophic in my head. But then when you get told no, if that happens, it's really just like, oh, okay, cool, hey, it was really nice chatting with you anyways. And it's kind of funny, you can laugh it off. So I don't even know if it's the event itself that I'm afraid of. I don't know about other people, but I think it's more just the idea of falling short of that goal that, like, terrifies me, which is fucking ridiculous because it's not going to hurt you in any way if you don't let it.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
No, it's really not, man.
Yeah, that's friggin' awesome, man. The whole going up and asking. You ever do that in the bar and, like, bet your buddies who can get the most phone numbers or whatever? Just going in there, and that's a good way to get over that fear of talking to a woman.
It depends the mindset you're in. I'm going to tell you a little story real quick. This might be the most epic shutdown I've ever experienced.
Tell a story real quick is usually something that comes out of your mouth.
Shut up. So anyways, this is like quite some time ago, a couple years ago, and I was in my little local bar that I would always go to, and I was pretty intoxicated. I was fucking doing drugs. Like, I'm just mangled, right? Like, just stumbling around at best. So I'm sitting on a stool at the bar, and I see this girl, like, a couple people down, like, kind of, like, looking over at me. And my vision's blurry. I'm seeing, like, triples. But in my mind, I'm just like, she's feeling me. She must be. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, it's in the bag. That's just, like, liquid courage that I'm feeling. So I go to get off my stool. I, like, stumble pretty viciously, save myself on the pool table, and, like, kind of stand up. And I walk over, and I can't recall exactly what I said, but it was something real cheesy along the lines of, like, oh, I noticed you were looking down at me, or something like that. Dude, she sips her drink, casually looks at me, and screams, fuck off. And everybody heard it. Every head turned and looked at me, and I'm just standing there. I felt like I had a spotlight on me. I felt like such a loser. And I just, like, put my head down and walked back over to my seat. Because of course I wanted to leave the bar, but being that I can't stop once I started, I had to stay. And, like, I don't know, man, like, being sober, those fears are not so catastrophic. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have that same fear of people anymore, because I feel good about what I'm doing today. And it's not about, like, working, like, a prestigious job or, you know what I mean, people adoring me or being on any kind of, like, level or anything like that. It's just feeling good about who I am, feeling good about my morals today, feeling good about, like, you know, when I talk to people, I look them in the eyes and not walking around riddled with shame and looking for fucking cigarette butts. And you know what I mean? Just, I feel good about what I'm doing with my life. And what I'm doing is trying to become a better person. And how many people outside of the recovery community actually live that every day? You know, a lot of people do, I'm sure, but not everyone.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say a lot. I think a lot of people just go with the motions every day.
Yeah, I think I'm doing the benefit of the doubt thing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
But kind of bringing the fear to even back relating to recovery, for me, like, I had a challenging probably 3 or 4 days last week of just, you know, just wanting to knowing, like, wow, how big this whole, you know, drug addiction thing is. Having things kind of call your name and just, you know, not being able to run to a beer or run to a drug when you're feeling a little anxious or just bored. And like, for me, I struggle with the fear of just, like, I don't like to admit that. Even to my counselor at Horizons on Thursday night, I forced myself to do it, but I had this fear of, like, almost like I'm the man, kind of, I don't get triggers, I don't have any urges, I got this shit, and I don't want anybody else to know, because if I show this weakness, what if they worry about me? What if they think I'm going to use? What if they start, you know, questioning me more, or whatever it is? Because God forbid if I have more accountability in my life. And I've just I've just been kind of in that mode where I've had to get through that fear of admitting that I'm, you know, hopeless against this whole thing, that I'm powerless over it.
Yeah, not hopeless, but powerless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that correction, because that would send the wrong signal there.
Yeah, what friends are for.
Having the powerlessness over it. And it's tough, man. Because even through all this, somehow I have pride. After all this jail, getting caught stealing from my family members and, you know, people who love me and ripping my good friends off and whatever it may be. After all of that, I still have pride that I don't want to let go of. Like, oh, how do I still have it? It's dumbfounding to me. I'm like, this is crazy that there's still this pride sitting here in my life that will not, you know, let go. I even wrote a song. My one song I wrote, Forlorn. It's a simple line in there, but it's basically, you know, look at what happens when you don't give up pride. Like, I wrote the song in rehab, feeling in my darkest moments, hence the song title, Forlorn. And just in my deepest, darkest moment of state of mind, I wrote this song lyrically. And it's like, look at what happened to you because you couldn't give up pride. You couldn't, like, I was talking with Christine, my woman, my chick the other day. I know. This freaking chair is driving me nuts.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
It's on the recording.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to have to get a new chair in here. But I was talking with Christine the other day, and we were talking about how many times, you know, about my pride and how many opportunities she said, what's going on? And I could be in that house with her right now. Yeah. I would have never had to go to jail. I wouldn't maybe have to go to rehab. And, you know, kind of throwing these things aside, that, you know, I do believe I had to go through what I went through to, you know, fix certain character flaws in myself. But, you know, throwing that aside, like, if I would have just been humble, didn't have this pride, and I would have been, I'm struggling with this, I'm taking these pills, and maybe I wouldn't even led to heroin. So our pride is just something that just bamboozles us over and over again. And I want to say, almost use the term toxic pride, because I don't want, you know, pride to get confused with, you know, take pride in your work, do a good job, take pride in the things you do, have pride in yourself, you know, and all your artwork. There's a difference between that and, like, this toxic pride of, I'm not going to admit I was wrong.
Right.
I'm not going to admit any of this.
Like toxic pride, I would say that's like ego-driven pride. Whereas, like, a good, healthy pride, if there is such a thing, I would think it's driven more by integrity. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that the other day when I'm laying in bed. You know, and I've heard people say, like, their pride is evil no matter what. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, is it? And then that's kind of when I got to thinking, like, maybe there's a difference between pride and integrity. You know, integrity is doing a good job to the best of your ability, and pride is, like, doing a good job to the best of your ability and then, like, not being okay with it because you want it to be better. You know what I mean? I'm not saying either way is right or wrong. I'm just saying it's some shit that I've been bouncing around in my head.
I think it goes back to the B word again. I think there's jealousy, and there's good jealousy and bad jealousy. Like, if, you know, I think it's a great sign that I get jealous that that the person I'm in love with is, you know, doing something else without me. But it becomes very toxic and bad jealousy when I'm letting it change my mood. I'm affecting how I act, how I think. I'm getting angry with her. I'm getting impatient with her. I'm causing arguments over her. Like, there's this bad thing. There's this good pride and there's bad pride. There's this egocentric pride of, no, I didn't make this mistake. No, I'm correct all the time.
Right.
No, I'm not wrong. Then there's this, oh, we're doing a podcast. Well, I want to take pride. I don't want to send out crap to the community for recording this podcast. I want a good sound quality. I want a good, I want good conversations.
Is that why you won't let me freestyle on the mic?
A good, I want a good, I want good things to happen. I want people to see how hard we're working in this.
Right.
And we're really putting an effort and we really care. Like, so there's that pride as well.
But it's like, I think, like, I want to be clear on that too. It's like, why do I care? Like, why do I care so much about this thing? I mean, number one, it's I want it to be beneficial to people. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that this is like going to save lives or whatever, but if it's just something that like somebody can listen to on the way to work, and it's like, because essentially this is a meeting. You know what I mean? When two people in addiction are sitting down and discussing recovery, that's what constitutes a meeting. You know what I mean? So this is fucking huge in my recovery because it gives me something to look forward to and actually put some thought process into. I'm not just showing up and like, fucking let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, we think about this, we discuss it. We got a little social media thing going on, and it's I'm really cautious though, man, because like, when I get excited about something, I'm afraid that it could become something driven by ego, and it's like starts to become a pride thing. You know what I mean? Like, look at me, look what I'm doing. I used to work, when I worked at the meatpacking plant, there was this old dude, Joe, Farmer Joe. I used to call him Old Man Joe. And when I'd fucking be like really determined on something, I know it's a side note, but I'd be like really determined and like trying to crush out this work and like kind of put on a show more or less. You just hear his old ass from across the room, look at me, look what I can do. And it's like, fuck you, Joe. But he's right, man. He was like the most humble dude, you know what I mean? He just did his work. He stayed till it was done. This guy's like old, man. Like, he can't stand for long. He needs 14-hour days sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, he just did what needed to be done because it needed to be done, but like, coming back to this thing, like, I am really excited about it, and I'm even more excited that I'm excited for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Like, to be a part of the recovery community is an honor. You know what I mean? To just be a member of that and like being in recovery, and when people say like, hey, talking to you, like, because I'm new in recovery, so I talk to a lot of dudes that are, well, not a lot of dudes, but a good number of people. I try to get phone numbers and stuff, and when I call them up and stuff, and it's like, hey man, I don't mean to bother you, but like, I'm kind of like bugging out about this one thing, like that thing that happened. I'm not going to get into details, but that thing that happened earlier this week that I called you about too, when I was stressing out, and I was like, fuck man, like, I got real mad, and then I acted on that anger and might have sent out some nasty text messages that's as detailed as I'm going to get on this shit. And like, at the time, I didn't feel bad. It's just like, no, like, fuck these people. You know what I mean? Like, fucking, I'll show them what's up. I'll show them what day it is, to quote Patrick. And
we'll see who blinks first.
Yeah, and afterwards, when I was thinking about it, it's like, I started feeling bad. And not feeling bad because I was mad, but feeling bad because, like, now that I'm in this process of growing and getting better, like, I can see the error in my ways. Like, it's like right on Front Street, man. Like, this is like not who you want to be anymore. Whereas like before, like 10 years ago or something like that, it's like, yeah, puff your chest up. I'm tough, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to fucking, trespass against me. Who the hell do you think you are? And now it's like, other people's business is not my business. You know what I mean? And it was embarrassing. So anyways, the point is, when I called my sponsor about this, it was kind of late at night, and I was like, I hope I didn't wake you up or anything. And he's like, no, man, like, when you call, this keeps me sober. So to hear that is like, it makes you really feel like you're a part of something, you know what I mean? And being not a part of something for so long, it's nice to have that sense of belonging and knowing that, we're all doing this together. Guys with 20 years sober, guys with 2 days sober.
Yeah. Preach it. Well, hand me one of those monsters over there, champ.
Do I?
Oh, I'm doing one after the other right now. So let me ask you this: how about being, having the pride along with humility?
I don't think they can coexist, man.
But not the toxic pride.
I don't see. That's why I'm not saying this to be argumentative. I know I'd like to get my point across. You know that, but that's not what this is. I don't know that for me, and I'm just talking for me, that any pride can exist in a healthy way. I can be driven by integrity and try to do things in a dignified way.
Let's talk about the difference between pride and integrity. And what is integrity to you?
Integrity is doing the right thing because it needs to be done. And pride is sort of like, look at what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And that's just, I don't know if that's an accurate description. I'm not a fucking dictionary, and I might be doing it wrong, but that's just the way that I understand it.
I almost want to argue that you can't do anything well without pride and actually having a selfish thing to it. If your sponsor helping you, if it did not make him feel good,
right,
he would not be doing it. So he's ultimately doing it out of a selfish act.
I mean, yes, it can be broken down that way, but how does pride tie into that?
Well, I'm going back with pride. You can't. How do you do something well and do good if you don't take pride in it?
You do it with integrity.
But I don't think that works that way. But
it does.
I don't know, because I think if you don't, I think there's a difference between pride and integrity. I think you would have to have both.
I'm gonna get on the Googles.
You're gonna do the old Google. This is why we need a technician here. We can just have him Google it and look it up.
We're far from being that successful.
Yes, we are. We have like 12 followers on YouTube.
We'll look up the difference between like the definitions of pride and integrity.
We'll have to, yeah, because that's where I'm at. I'm like, I think taking pride in anything you do is a good thing.
Okay, so integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. Okay, so that's integrity. Now we're gonna integrity is not swearing, just to fill dead space.
Oh, you don't have much integrity in these podcasts. Then.
I disagree.
I'm just playing.
Okay, pride, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. The achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. See, so pride is that's an ego thing, man. Whereas
everything's an ego thing, dude.
Well, yes and no. We like to strive to get away from that. I think it's kind of in us. I don't know if it's innate and we're just like that by nature as human beings, or if it's a result of the society in which we live. Because you could have the most, dharma conscious parents, and you're still exposed to this material world.
Did you just use the phrase dharma conscious? I like it.
You like that?
Look at that.
I pay attention when you talk. You don't think I do, but I do.
I never said that.
Well, I just assume. There's my fucking assumptions again. But yeah, man, so it's like, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up, but so in my recovery, though, because I'm, a lot of my wrongs came from, egotistic motives and being prideful and wanting people to admire me and talking myself up. And, I'm not saying any of this shit was founded on anything that I've done, but it's just, I had this in my head, and that's just was part of my addiction. You know what I mean? And that's just what it was. So to get away from that, it's a safety thing for me to rid myself of pride, to do things because I know they're right. You know what I mean? Because now, I know the right thing to do. You know what I mean? So, after the other... Okay, fucking another little story. So, I stole some shit not long ago. And this is, in recovery. I went and stole some shit. And it was sitting in my bottom drawer. And it wasn't anything, crazy. You know what I mean? It was, a couple bucks worth of stuff. But I just didn't have the money for it, and I wanted it, so I fucking stole it. You know what I mean? Old behaviors. I know how to take shit. I don't have any money, so whatever. I still want what I want. And it was gnawing at me for a week, and then 2 weeks goes by, and I still haven't used this thing. And then I'm praying one night, and I'm praying, for willingness and openness to receive these messages. And every time I went to go say another part of the prayer, just this voice in my head, fucking throw it out. And over and over and over. And that day that I called you about that situation that I had or whatever, trying to pray myself through this and ask for help and guidance, and just all I kept hearing in my head is throw it out. So 2 a.m, I get up out of bed, I go get a garbage bag, and I threw it all out. So that's my pride wanted me to have those things because I use those things for an ego-driven thing that I do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get into specifics here or whatever, but it's something that number one, I enjoy doing, but I get a huge sense of pride out of it. It feeds my ego. And I think it took a certain amount of integrity to take those things and throw them out without using them. And I was happy about that, and I got a sense of calm from that. So for me, pride is very dangerous. I can't speak for anybody else, but if I attach pride to anything I'm doing, it's probably going to go south pretty fucking quick.
We're going to have to, I don't know if you get a mic drop on that one, champ. There's many. I could take this disagreement down the path for another 3 hours, but to spare our listeners, we are not going to go there. The whole
thanks, Mom.
Pride. We'll do a side episode of us arguing about pride, integrity, and humility.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're right, and that's the thing about those things too. It's like. Dictionary definitions aside, man, we all still have our own concept of what these things are.
So many things that come along with it.
Yeah, so there's really no right or wrong. It's just one's understanding and one's interpretation, and being able to convey that to another person, can sometimes be tricky. And it's not in a convincing way. It's just like, like this is what I believe. And
just experience alone with something can, change what you think of a word.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the many reasons why, words bring along, as beautiful as language is, it's so limiting, and it can become very...
here we go.
Very, it can become very difficult to convey ideas. I mean, lots of times you're in an argument with somebody, and you end up realizing, or a debate, and you end up realizing that you both meant the same thing, but you had different definitions of words, which is one reason why I love philosophy. Because you can spend an hour talking about one word. Like, we need to agree on what this one word means so we can come to agreement on what this whole sentence means.
The old, can you define is?
Yeah.
What does is mean?
That whole...
God bless.
That Bill whole Clinton. Concept. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
Which
good
is,
shit.
Another reason why, the whole God word always drives me nuts, because... I don't know, what the hell does that even mean? And you have to especially in recovery, and especially in things like AA and NA, you have to come to all right, this is what, they say all the time, a God of your understanding.
Right. So it could be.
So you have to come down to that, but.
Well, and in order for.
When somebody asks you, do you believe in God? I'm like, what the hell I don't even know what that means.
Well, that's why they say, specifically develop your own understanding. You know what I mean? Because, I've never. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm not a religious cat. I don't believe in religion. And that's my own take on it. You know what I mean? My father's a born again Christian, and I respect him to death. You know what I mean? And his views and morals are all good and stuff like that. But I'm just not with the organized religion. But to deny, and this is something like this specific explanation is something I got out of the big book, where they talk about all these incredible laws that balance the universe and make everything work. To think that all that happened with no intelligence behind it, to me, doesn't make sense. And that's just me. And so my higher power, is just easy for me to call it God. You know what I mean? I could call it Sam if I really want to, but to me it just makes sense to call it God.
Sam.
Yeah, call it whatever you want. But I don't always necessarily agree when people are like, oh, it could be group of drunks, it could be this meeting, it's a power bigger than yourself. But fucking, is it really? Because these are still human powers. And this is that's why I respect a lot of the people who kind of escaped me here. But now just the spirit of the universe, whatever you want to call it, but just the thing that in my mind, God is the creator of all things. And it's not a Christian God, a Muslim God, or a Hindu God, or anything like that. It's just that one God that created everything. And that's my interpretation, and that's how I'm going to get through this program, because in order to do these steps, that's a requirement for this particular program. I'm not saying it's a requirement to get clean and sober. I don't believe that at all. But it's the same way that if you want to play basketball, it's required to have a basketball, not a football. Having a football doesn't say that you can't play sports, but you can't play this fucking particular kind of sport. You know what I mean? So that's in order to do a 12-step program, an understanding of a higher power is necessary.
That was your 1 out of 20 good analogy right there.
Dude, that was a good one. It was fire. And I saw you rolling your eyes at the beginning, and I'm like, no, let me hit him with this. This is good. That was off the top.
I was just rolling my eyes because I was laughing about you and your analogies.
It helps me understand shit.
I love analogies. No, they're good. Yours are just usually terrible.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I do have a temporary sponsor / maybe real sponsor. I don't really know yet where I'm at with this, but we talked about the whole higher power thing.
Let me just interrupt you real quick? Because speaking on the higher power thing, how did he come about? How did it? I know you've had his number, but how exactly? Explain to the listeners how it came about that you agreed to go through this book with him.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this wonderful story here.
May or may not be God working in his life. You decide.
Oh, God. All right, let's not even start there. So I was coming out of outpatient, and I've been kind of talking with the dude for 3 weeks or so, maybe. No, it was probably longer than that because I was still in Horizons Village when I met him, and he gave me his number. But he's, trying to get me to call him every day, and I, or just shoot him a text at least, and I would at least throw out one every few days. Hey, what's going on? I'm doing this. I'm here at this point in my recovery here. So our good old buddy that we have from Horizons Village, his name is also Patrick, and I have this temporary sponsor Patrick as Patrick in my phone, and then I have our friend from Horizon Village, Patrick, as like Greaseball, I think I called him, the old Italian, and we always, talking trash to each other, so I always call him. That's why I had him in my phone as that. But I've had this thing go on for a week where I would go to text our Italian friend Patrick. This is a tough story to explain with all these Patricks. Our Italian friend Patrick, if I want to text him, I'd accidentally text this other Patrick, that I met through AA. And eventually I'm calling our good friend to go to a meeting from Horizon Village over and over again. He's not answering. And finally, this one dude from Patrick, that's who I'm actually calling, and he picks up. And he didn't know I was even accidentally calling him. He said, hey, what's going on? I want to see how I was doing. And then he brought up trying to, start working through me through the AA book. So that's kind of how that happened. I figured, I just will agree to this at this point since I've been on the phone with him for a half hour. So we ended up getting together on Sunday, and we came to talking about the whole higher power thing, and me trying to find a way where I can get down with it. And I mean, the only conclusion I came to is coming to the whole kind of Eastern thought of it as, that, our space in between our conceptualizations where we can't label anything in between our emotions and our thoughts. In Buddhism, they call it the void, where there's just nothing there but this blissful, ineffable feeling. And that's kind of what I agreed upon to call my higher power at this point. So that's what kind of the conclusion we came to, which he said, when I was like, this is what I can go with it. This is what I can get down with. I think when people say, the universe, it's just, if it was off by one fraction of a mathematical number, it wouldn't be here. It's like, yeah, whatever. And if that never happened, then you wouldn't know it didn't happen. And it wouldn't be a big deal. It's like somebody's got to win the lottery. Right. You might have one in, a quadrillion chance of winning it, but one person's going to win it.
Probably going to win. There's odds.
Eventually, somebody's going to win. Eventually, in 13.8 billion years, something struck in the universe where we could create life through, what's happening. So,
but I think that's that going down a road that's their explanation of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't have to adhere to somebody else's explanation. That's one thing that I love about the program of I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's my 12-step program, and it says like a God of your understanding. And there's this poem that my old recovery coach gave me when I was still out at the village in my long-term rehab, and it was, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's Desiderata or Desiderata. It's by Max Ehrman, and there's a thing in there. I don't want to misquote it. I'm gonna look it up because I think I got it somewhere. But anyways, it's about. I'm not going to look it up. Fuck it. It's basically just saying, so make peace with God with whatever you conceive him to be. Like, whatever it is to you, man. You know what I mean? Like, to some people, like, if you just walk out, and it's like a beautiful fucking day, and the birds are chirping, and it's a nice breeze and stuff, like, that's just, in my opinion, like, that's just God at work. Like, just, it's whatever you conceive it to be, man. It could be, like the Genghis Khan and, like, the Mongols or whatever. Like, their God was the God of the never-ending blue sky. And a lot of like indigenous cultures and stuff, they worship the sun and, just bringers of life, things that give life, is what they worship, you know what I mean? Because it's like a gift.
Do you say worship or warship?
What did I say? Fuck off. Worship?
War as in like a warship that you drive on the water and you're going to war?
See, this is what I can't stand about you people. You godless heathens. Anyway, that went south pretty quick. I don't know what I said, but the point is that like, like my interpretation of God, and again, not to offend anybody, but like my God doesn't need me to go to a building other than my house on a specific day of the week and get down and sing songs and shit like that. For some people, like that's what their conception of God is, and that's wicked, man. If that's going to help you be a better useful person and kind and loving, then that's rad, man. Other people, you know what I mean? A couple of times a day, you got to get down, face a certain direction and pray. And I think that's an amazing thing if that's what's giving you fulfillment within your soul. And
Air quotes.
I know you love that word soul in air quotes. But yeah, man, so like just like for me, like that's my piece is, you know, that God is everything around me. You know how they say like we're actually just dense balls of energy, like we're not actually solid things, you know. And like, that's when I was doing that 6th step yesterday and I was sitting in the room for that 1 hour period, that's one of the things I started to think about. Like even like the air around us is a fucking gas. You know, so we're all just like, I just got to, you know, thinking about like my energy, like interacting with the energy of the air, interacting with the trees, and like just all that shit. And it just started blowing my mind, man, like how all this stuff just works together. And that happened at that specific time, in my opinion, God working in my life and just showing me that, like, you know, like I am here, I am present, and you're doing the right thing, you know. And to me, I think that anybody would agree with this. It's kind of a fucking no-brainer that to change from this like self-seeking criminal, asshole, drug addict, thief, cheater, like just everything wrong, you know what I mean? Car thief, fucking robberies, burglaries, like everything you can imagine, you know what I mean? Short of killing people and rapes and, you know, that kind of stuff, hurting old people and kids and shit, right? But like all like just regular crimes, I was gonna call, but like, you know, like your average street crimes and shit that like, you know, and then to be like a drug addict and like the people that I've hurt. So anybody would say, you know, it's a good thing to change that into being a kinder, gentler, respectful person, you know what I mean? Like my goal is to try to like, you know, listen to everybody, but don't give anybody too much attention. Like don't ignore anybody, but don't praise anybody more than you should. And, you know, like try to be understanding whenever I can. And like, even when I can't, just lead with love, man. Just start every interaction that I have with somebody, was that a fart or the fucking chair, man? I keep thinking you're ripping butt.
I know, I'm not sitting in this chair again.
No, it's
I hope
stupid.
it's not on the recording.
It's definitely, I can hear it in my headphones, so probably. Anyways, back to my heartfelt, thoughtful thing that I was saying before your fucking chair started farting. Yeah, so anyways, man, like it's just, you know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for a guy like me to come to a place in my life where not only am I willing to change, but things are being presented to me to where I can be this useful person, man. Like that's like what I try to remember every morning when I wake up, just like, how can I be useful today? Whereas, you know, not long ago, first thing I wake up, all right, how can I get some stuff today? How can I get what I want? Like, how am I going to fucking manipulate this day and make it the best for me and fuck who it hurts, right? Like now it's just like, how can I be useful? You know, what can I do to be a benefit to the people around me?
Love.
Lead with love, man.
All you need is love.
Fucking cornball. It's true though. It really is. That's all you need, man.
Let's we're coming up on 50 minutes here, so let's swing this to our last little topic of patience.
All right.
And the importance of patience. Because there's many times just in the last 2.5 weeks of being out of Horizons Village, I have just been like, all right, come on. Like, I want to speed this along. I want this to be done. I want this to be over with. Let's go. I want to learn everything I can learn so I can be on in my life as if learning, like, has an end to it.
Right.
Yeah. But the importance of just being patient in your recovery, knowing, you know, for example, for the 12 steps, knowing when, all right, when am I going to go on to this next step? When am I ready? As opposed to just trying to rush it. I want to get through it all. All right, I got 12 steps on. I'm good to go. All right, I don't need A anymore. I don't need to go on any support groups or whatever it is.
Right.
And having this patience, more in particular, patience with ourselves. You know, I mean, yes, we need it for the rest of the world, but, you know, being patient with ourselves to be like, all right, you know, I'm on this step, I'm doing this stage in my recovery, and I need to sit here with it until I've learned what I need to learn from it, and I know that I'm ready to go on to the next one. You know, being able to fail, you know, having that fear of failure and having the patience to get through the failure to be able to learn from it. And so, you know, I think it's super important for anybody who's going through anything in life or trying to accomplish anything in life, but especially in recovery, we need to have this sense of patience through everything. And what about you with, like, you know, you're on your, what, 6th, 7th step, you said? I'm
going to start my 8th step. I finished 7th.
Your 8th step.
7th is basically, I can't remember the exact wording, but I think it's like asked his protection and care with complete abandon. So basically like the 7th step prayer, I'm not going to remember this word by word, but it's basically like just asking God to take all of me, good and bad, and like just like show me how I can, you know, take all these defects away from me so I can be of like the most use to you and my fellows, right? So it's from that, like, and like, it's something that I believe in my soul is happening, right? So then that's, you know, that's a me thing. But from that, like leading up to this process, like, dude, my fucking nerves have been like a wreck, man. Like for the week.
Tell me about the patience you've had to have going through all these steps.
It was rough, bro, because like I did my 4th step, and that one takes a little while, and that's up for debate. Some people say you crush it out in a couple hours. Other people say take your whatever. So it took me a couple days. I went at the pace that my sponsor told me to go at. You know what I mean? It's not me setting these rules. And writing all that shit down, like when I first, there's like 3 main parts to it or whatever. Or 4, whatever it is. I can't remember. Even though I just did it. And so it wasn't until I got to the end part. Like some people get really knotted up going through their fears or their resentments and stuff like that. For me, it was when I got to the sex inventory, man. And I had to look back at like girlfriends that I've had and like just amazing people. And I was like, fuck, man. Like I knew I did these things, but to write it all down and break it down into categories, and then like how was I dishonest, and like what should I have done? Like, that's the last column on the sex inventory. And like, dude, that had me like really like just upset and like just disappointed in myself and just sad. And so like I was anxious to get this 5th step done because selfish me, I don't want to feel this discomfort of all the shit that I've done. Do you know what I mean? So like that's ridiculous, but that's just what it was. And then it was just a matter of timing. My sponsor didn't have time right away. So for those, I think it was 5 days, I sat on that, man. Like that's when I bugged out and like started shooting those text messages off. The other day I was watching Viceland and Dope Sick Nation came on. I love that show. And I noticed that it was a repeat and I fucking lost it, dude. I like lost my mind. I almost threw the remote and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And I'm like sharing about it at meetings and stuff. And so the point is that when I finally got that shit done yesterday, that 5, 6, and 7, like it was just like the biggest relief, the biggest release of stress. And so now that like in my mind and in my heart and my soul, I've turned my life over to the care of God as I understand him. And so now I don't have to worry about shit. I accept that things are going to go just as they go. The universe is going to unfold just as it should. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, that's given me patience. I've literally been granted patience overnight because I've never been a patient dude. I don't wait around for shit. I force my hand. You know what I mean? Just my way, and that's it. Obviously, that mentality has not served me well, nor the people around me. But yeah, man, it's just going through this process, praying every day, and really putting my heart and soul into this process. And I think that people who go other avenues, not just the 12 steps, but I mean, if you're going to go the more Eastern route or like the Buddhist route or whatever, religious, whatever, you know what I mean? If that encompasses praying every day, we're just being mindful, practicing mindfulness, whatever it is, when you put your focus on, like meditation, did I say meditation? I meant to say meditating. Anyways, I don't know if I did or if I didn't. I've done a lot.
It's
of drugs.
okay to say it twice.
Yeah, my brain's a little, still repairing. Neuroplasticity is slowing down. Anyways, yeah, no matter what it is that you practice, as long as you practice this shit as a discipline, it can even be martial arts. I think from that, patience will come, because you just become at ease with the way that things are, and, do what you believe to be is right, try to be as helpful as possible, and just let the shit fall into place, man, because it's going to, whether I want it to or not. So I can either buck it or go with it. Like, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is.
Zen Master Andy over there.
Yeah, that was an Anthony DeMello quote. I just stole that. I'm sure other people have said it, but that dude's a trip. If you guys, if whoever hears this or whatever, Anthony DeMello, he's a guy from India with an Italian name.
Yeah, I watched that video some the other day. He's a weirdo.
Dude,
but he had good shit to say.
Such a weirdo, but yeah, his shit is like on point. Like if you're into spirituality or like, different perspectives on spirituality, like this dude, like I think he just like spent his fucking life just seeking clarity and like just like ultimate spirituality and like not being affected by anything, and it's crazy shit, man. Definitely check it out.
That's good. So the old patience, yeah, that's a struggle to have. And other time when you're not feeling good, when you didn't get enough sleep, when you're not treating your body well, it's even makes it that much more difficult to have patience. But for me, it's come down to like being able to cut myself slack and being able to allow myself to fail. That gives me this patience. Like, all right, I didn't get it this time. Let me go again. Mm-hmm. So I think we all need to learn how to, do that a little more for ourselves. Is just allow that patience, allow that, that room and that space to grow. Because if you're trying to rush, and it goes back to a line that I always say, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to somebody else's today. I think that breeds patience. That's saying that over and over again has helped me have patience with myself. Like, all right, look at how far I've come, not look at how far this person's come and why am I not there yet? Because then that makes you want to rush. Yeah, and I love intertwining that again with, having humility. It's okay not to be as far as this person is right now. I'm at where I'm supposed to be at.
Right.
Look, I've come this far, and I have all this room still to grow and learn.
Right. Actually, that reminds me of another thing that Anthony DeMello was talking about like success. Like, what is success? Like, who the fuck says what success is? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I mean, like, is that successful? I don't know.
According to who?
Or is it more successful to be a priest? Or, what is success? So you're right. Fuck what other people are doing. Like, congratulate them. I shouldn't have said that, but, like, congratulate them, and it's great that other people are doing what they're doing. But it's about what you as an individual are doing, and are you doing better than you were yesterday? And when I say better, like, are you trying to be more spiritual? Are you trying to be of more service and more use to other people? Then that's progress, and that's a success. Every day you're a success if you think about how can I help the next person. To me, that's successful.
It's a beautiful thing.
How's you?
And we are, I feel like I end it always announcing how long we are in the recording.
Yeah, every nobody gives a shit.
I don't know, 55 minutes in. This is one of the 4 minutes longer than our normal. Usually we end around
a normal, but
51. Yeah. Somehow we always usually end up around 51 minutes. But, patience, humility, and pride, we kind of touch bases on, and along with that fear of, just jump through fear, man. We all got to do it.
Yeah.
If you're scared of something, run into it. Run into the chaos, and that's where beauty is created. And
do it with confidence. Walk with purpose. Walk straight to that shit, because it's like, it's not going to hurt you. We're not talking about like running fears, like running at bullets and shit, but just, day-to-day stuff, man. Like fear of rejection, walk straight towards it. Because what's the worst that can happen? The worst that's going to happen is you're going to learn that you can handle rejection.
Exactly.
And that's an amazing thing.
The worst that's going to happen is you're not going to run into it and you're never going to grow.
Right. Well, yeah, that's too. If you walk the other way, then that's no bueno. But
it's like running. You feel like you're getting chased by something in the woods. You don't stop to look at to see what it is. Yes, it could be a tiger, but it also could be a squirrel. So find out what it is.
I sure do love squirrels.
We're going to end it on that note, folks. We do have our little side project coming out of, talking with, maybe for 20 minutes or so, sitting down and having a conversation with a family member of an addict or an addict themselves and kind of hearing their story and how they were affected by it. So we got our first one coming out Saturday. I don't even know the date. What's today? Today's Monday the 5th. So however many days, do the math, people. And real professional here. So that'll be out. And this is the old Room 9 podcast, man. Yeah. Episode number 3.
Thanks for listening, folks.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right.